love is sweet too, but with the right person. No be the left one. No be the left one. The right person. So search for the right person. Insano unya na right afa na left afa. Them say the insano how no unim say how traffic for left no with the right person. I'm telling you.
So yeah, this past years have seen a lot of, should I say, debate or a sort of friction among Ghanaians. And this friction, or should I say a lot of friction among the majority and minority portion of Ghanaians. And this friction came about after the anti-LGBTQ bill was drafted and, brought before Parliament to criminalize homosexuality, which is already an abomination in Ghana. I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but I've been meaning to make a conversation on this, commentary on this issue. But I've been watching a lot of interviews and a lot of debates on this issue, and I haven't actually watched one with a balanced opinion, or should I say a balanced argument. So, I mean, I decided to desist from talking about it till I actually came across this debate between Honorable Sam George and Professor Emerita Tichua Manu, sorry. And this is the only debate which actually, to me, this is the only debate which was logical and which actually had some things to look out for. And before we go ahead, I would like to let you know clearly that I am not for or against any stance. I'm just come to make a commentary on the debate, on the argument, and on how the approach went. And with this particular commentary, it will focus on the professor, because to me, she's the first lady to actually enter an argument logically, with logical approach. I've never seen any lady in my life going to an argument, and I'm sorry, I'm not being a sexist, that's my reality. I've never seen a lady going to an argument with logical facts, like with logical facts to punch holes to the argument of her opponent, especially a man. And the funny thing is, most ladies are actually emotional, but this woman was composed and she delivered it. And to give you a premise, on this incident, after the bill was, should I say proposal, the bill hasn't been enacted, but after the bill was published and given to Ghanaians, 18 intelligentsia. Intelligentsia is basically the intellect, the professors and all that. 18 professors have come together to be against the bill, which is the bill currently is something that is backed by majority of Ghanaians due to cultural and religious and due to cultural and religious beliefs and all that. So yeah. Today, my focus will be on the professor who is against the bill. This doesn't mean I am pro-LGBTQ or anything like that. I don't want to be affiliated with any alphabet mafia. And another thing is, I would do a video on some judge, make a comment on some judge who is for the bill. So, I would do this. The reason why I'm doing this is because almost everybody is, praising some judge. Almost everybody is commenting on what some judge is saying. But I'm also trying to be objective and look at the other side. And I mean, this professor actually is the only person on the other side who has actually made sensible, logical submissions to this bill. So we are going to watch snippets of her submission, and I'll make a commentary on it.
You see that the framers try to do a good balancing act where there is respect for the rights of the majority as well as respect for the rights of the minority, and a very conscious attempt to not have the majority at any time oppress the rights of the minority. Now we must also understand what a constitution is.
But in this, to use the word oppress doesn't also mean that the rights of the minority is something that needs to be upheld.
Yes, upheld.
Yes.
So, okay, I will withdraw that. So what I mean is that, especially if you look at Article 21(4)(e), there is a specific section against that. Okay, so the Constitution sets out general principles. It generally does not deal with crime and sanctions, except the high crime and treason, and it leaves relevant laws such as the criminal code, specific laws to deal with the ills, because if you look at the Constitution, it's talking about everything.
But those specific laws take inspiration from the Constitution.
Oh yes, everything. Okay. As I said, any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution will not fall. Okay, so as you have said, Chapter 5 sets out the fundamental human rights and freedoms of everybody, all Ghanaians, and indeed all the people who live in Ghana, whether they are Ghanaians or not. So, and it's irrespective of race, place of origin, political opinion, religion, gender, color, etc. And it is an individual entitlement. Okay, sets out the protection of the right to life, to personal liberty, the respect for the human dignity, equality and freedom from discrimination, protection of privacy of home and other property, the right to a fair trial, protection from deprivation of property, etc. And then in Article 21, it goes into the fundamental freedoms. The freedom of speech and expression, the freedom of thought, conscience and belief, the freedom to practice any religion, the freedom of assembly, including taking part in processions and demonstrations, the freedom of association, including the right to form or join trade unions, the freedom of information subject to law, the freedom of movement. And as I said, so you find...
So the main argument for you and the rest of the 17 is based on the Constitution?
Very much so. Very much so.
Not based on the practice of homosexuality or any of these practices. But
it is based on the dignity and inviolability of every person and the rights that are guaranteed them.
So, I mean, this was a classical presentation and I loved it because it shows that she's a learned person. So when she started the debate, when she started her presentation, she started by acknowledging the effort of the bill, acknowledging actually how, saying something good about the bill, even though she didn't like it. And she went further to juxtapose it with the Constitution, where the human rights aspect, which is in the chapter 5, was written. The chapter 5 actually was about the human rights, and then she tried to punch holes in their argument in the anti-LGBTQ proponents, yeah, that's the word. So the anti-LGBTQ proponents, and so basically she was saying that she was actually standing for the human rights of the people, of those who want to, practice that lifestyle, and she went further to explain what the chapter 5 of the Constitution, which focuses on the human rights, fundamental human rights of the people, And I mean, to me, it was a good presentation, because I've never seen, and I keep saying this, I've never seen any lady make such a methodical debate on an issue. Thank you.
This bill is to deal with the current state of the insatiable desire of a certain group of people to appropriate all the 26 alphabets of the letters of the alphabet.
So you listen to His Excellency IPO,
precisely.
Listen to Honorable here.
Thank you very much. And I leave it to the viewers to judge who is condescending and who is uncivil and who does not tell the truth. I watched your CNN interview where you did not even know when the Equal Rights Amendment was passed in the United States. Women got the vote in the United States in 1920, not 1960. In any case, so let's go to this issue about the unanimity of this bill. Just a few days ago, the chairman of the Parliamentary Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs had expressed himself on the constitutionality of this bill. Article 108 gives private members the right to bring a bill, and some of us have supported that right. Curiously, the first bill that was sponsored under the private members bill was an amendment to the Road Traffic Act. And there is something about unborn fetuses in that act. And many people did not notice it. We are suggesting that it is that same impetus that has informed this current bill. Honorable Bejra, MP for Who, has actually told us on City FM.
And another thing that was remarkable to me was that even though she was confronted, or she didn't agree with Honorable Sam George, or she was offended by Honorable Sam George's comment, she had a composure. And she even, let me be fair, she actually made a logical fallacy, which, it looks like she had watched some judges' previous interviews, and he made a mistake over there, and she had to bring it to this argument, which I personally think it was unnecessary, but, especially, it's a logical fallacy. It was necessary, but it's a logical fallacy. That I need to get it clear. But I like the way she, remained composed and, made her point clear. And that was remarkable to me.
To an attack on me by an MP that I had said that we live in a country where ordinary malaria kills people. We haven't finished solving those problems, and we are pretending that we can deal with people's sexual orientation. It's a joke, and I will insist. It's not because we don't have a malaria control program. I'm saying that people still die from communicable and non-communicable diseases, and that is what we should really focus on. Sin is the purview of the church, and crime is the purview of the state. And in fact, all the mobilization of our religious leaders suggests that they haven't done their work properly. All the morality issues that they cannot deal with, they are now asking the state to come and deal with it.
Do you consider research organized by institution as an evidence to certain things happening in society?
Oh yes, I think that if I want something to be passed based on Ghanaian law, Ghanaian culture, etc., I would use evidence here.
If you acknowledge that, what do you make of the CDD?
No, precisely. I'm coming to the CDD research. The CDD research is being misused. Misused.
How?
The CDD research showed that 97% of Ghanaians are so intolerant, and that Ghana comes on top of 23 African countries of being most intolerant. This is not something to celebrate. And in fact,
the contents of an evidence which
but that was not the purpose of the CDD report. The CDD, by the way, is not a right-wing organization, Mr. Sam George. But the point is that the CDD report was looking at a range of attitudes on ethnicity, on political preferences, etc. So it was a range. And what they found was this. Now the point is that abhorrence, the fact that the majority of people, and in fact the UN special rapporteur, when they came to Ghana, they were saying that this was evidence that the state should actually protect that community against this unbridled hostility and intolerance.
Yeah.
Now you empower them by giving them a law to go after these people? No. You see, that is why I'm saying that you have to be careful in interpreting it. The other evidence that I have heard
the
other evidence that I've heard Mr. Sam George use is the Ghana AIDS Commission research telling us that 18.1% of men who have sex with men are HIV positive. The other 82%, they are heterosexuals. So what is this focus on the men having sex with men? So again, we have to be careful how we use it. And the money that is spent on antiretrovirals, most of it which doesn't come from Ghana anyway, but I would advise that the leakages that the Auditor General's report and all the Parliamentary Accounts Committee reports, that as an MP, this is where he should focus his energies. Okay?
All right, let me
no, please, let me just finish.
I think I've given you enough time to do this.
to listen to two people.
I mean, I'm giving you enough time.
But I just want to say something to Mr. Ikweotu. Okay. He's a lawyer.
Yes.
And a former Attorney General. Yes. And I expect him to base his argument on law and the Constitution.
Hasn't he done that?
No, he has not.
Why hasn't he done that?
He has based his arguments on culture and all this.
So he talked about rights. He talked about rights.
Only to
and cited the example of suicide.
Only to dismiss them. So, if the law on suicide is inadequate, throw it out, reform it. Okay? If Section 104.
But why is it even criminalized? I mean,
precisely, I don't happen to agree with it. But what I'm saying is that anything, this was done in 1960, it's not good enough. Strengthen it. Don't bring a punitive law in its stead.
Okay, let me move to His Excellency Ayukoji. I just have about 15 more minutes for us to wrap up. And
so yeah, in this video, first off, she started by, dealing with all the arguments that have been submitted, which are against her stance. So the first one, I think a minister or an MP made a comment about what she made earlier. I mean, I think they were trying to play on the emotions of people, and she came out to, defend herself by saying that, they've not dealt with malaria and other communicable diseases, and they are thinking of somebody's sexual orientation. That was one. And another one was that she, in the interviews and debates, the people should I say the supporters of the bill were focusing on using some researchers and some data which was organized by some research organizations, and they were using it to support the argument, and she was saying that it is actually the contrary. These bills were actually showing you that these bills were actually supporting her argument instead of theirs, which is against the act, and trying to say that Ghanaians are not intolerant, and they need to. That is even a call for help, or the call for a cry for help for these minority people who want to live by this lifestyle. And she also made a nice argument, which I found it remarkable. She tried to say that the church was trying to use the state as guard dogs to do their work instead of them standing up and do their own work. Which it was a good move. If you are supposed to look at this logically, it made sense. And also, she was in the studio with an Honorable St. George and Honorable Otu. And Honorable Otu is a lawyer, but he was personally, to me, his argument was so much sentimental, and I didn't even want to talk about it because I personally agree with some of the things he said, but the way he said it was too much playing on the emotion of others, and I was even shocked. He's a lawyer, but maybe it makes sense to some people. But I mean, so far it was some judge and the professor who were up to task on this debate. Now back to the debate. So she addressed Honorable to that she's I think I'm what are you eating today? Anyway, he said that she said that Honorable Otu is a lawyer, and she was expecting him to address the issue from a human rights standpoint, which is another plus for her. So I mean, in all this interview and all that, I mean, there's my take on the commentary of Professor Emerita Manu. And my next video, some video, I'll make another video on some judge concerning the same issue. Thank you, and I'm out. It's your boy ADB. You can call me the Asylum Down Boy. Hasta la vista. I'm out. I'm dismissing. Bye bye.